4 years ago, I was pretty impressed by a new probiotic with some really compelling clinical research, specifically relating to type 2 diabetes. The company has been busy since then, but their focus appears to have shifted a bit from science to sales. Today, my update on Pendulum Probiotics. Hello, and welcome to the Nutrition Diva podcast, a show where we take a closer look at nutrition research and trends and answer your food and nutrition questions so that you can make more informed choices about what you eat. I'm your host, Monica Reinagel, and today's show, like so many others, was prompted by an email that I got from a listener, just like you. Emily wrote to ask my opinion about a company called Pendulum. They have probiotics that supposedly assist with glucose control and weight loss, she wrote. I just want to know if it's legitimate. Well, as it happens, I actually profiled this company back in 2021 when they introduced their flagship product because I thought the science behind it was quite impressive. Unlike the vast majority of probiotic supplements on the shelves these days, Pendulum's glucose control formula had solid research to support its effectiveness in improving blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes. Emily's email got me curious about what might have happened in the meantime, so I sent her a link to my original episode, and I'll also link to it in the show notes for you. But I promised her that I would do an episode updating the research, and today I'm making good on that promise. Now, first, let me just offer a quick recap for those who didn't hear my original episode. Pendulum's glucose control probiotic was a proprietary blend of several different bacterial strains, but the hero of this particular cocktail was a patented version of a bacterium known as Akkermansia. This bacterial strain had only been identified in 2004, and it was Pendulum's research and product launch that really put Akkermansia on the map. Now, this strain occurs naturally in the human gut, but it tends to be scarce in individuals with type 2 diabetes. And so the hope was that boosting the Akkermansia population with a supplement might help improve glucose control and metabolic health. And that hope was bolstered by a clinical trial that was published in 2020. Over the course of a 12-week study, participants taking Pendulum's glucose control probiotic experienced meaningful improvements in their blood sugar control. Specifically, their hemoglobin A1C, that's a key marker of long-term blood sugar management, decreased by an average of 0.6%. And they also saw a significant reduction in blood sugar spikes after meals. Now, at the time, I found these results quite promising, and I thought that it could represent a legitimate breakthrough in the management of this very common condition. But I also raised a couple of caveats. First, the cost of the product was pretty high at approximately $165 per month. And that, ironically, made it far more expensive than conventional diabetes treatments like metformin. And I was afraid that might potentially limit access for people who might benefit the most. Secondly, a 12-week trial couldn't shed much light on the long-term sustainability of these microbiome changes. So would ongoing supplementation always be necessary? Or could the beneficial bacteria become permanently established in the gut? And finally, I cautioned against viewing this or any probiotic as a silver bullet. While it might put a new tool in the toolkit, it does not replace other tools that we use to manage type 2 diabetes, such as dietary measures, physical activity, weight management, and when needed, medical treatment. So in short, my take back in 2021 was cautiously optimistic. Pendulum seemed to be offering something genuinely novel and potentially very useful, but it was not without limitations and definitely not a standalone solution. So where do things stand now, 4 years later? Disappointingly, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement on the research front. As of now, no new peer-reviewed clinical trials have been published on Pendulum's probiotic formulations since that initial promising study in 2020. So, my question about the long term sustainability remains unanswered for now. The company indicates that further research is ongoing, but results remain unavailable at this time. The price of the original glucose formula hasn't changed either. It's still about $165 per month, although when you factor in inflation, I guess that does actually represent a discount. What has changed significantly is Pendulum's product line. In addition to the original glucose control probiotic, they've introduced several new products. Metabolic Daily is the same combination of bacteria used in the original glucose control formula, but at a much lower dosage and a somewhat lower price. This product claims to support metabolism and healthy weight. Those are kind of typically vague supplement claims. And it appears to be targeting people who do not have type 2 diabetes, but maybe they're concerned about glucose control. The problem is that there doesn't appear to be any published research on the effects of this lower dosage or in healthy populations. Pendulum Akkermansia is a supplement that contains just the hero bacterial strain from that original formula, and it claims to improve intestinal barrier function, which, all the recent buzz about leaky gut has certainly made that very fashionable, as well as offering those vague metabolic benefits. Given that their research emphasized the synergistic value of combining Akkermansia with those other strains, I'm not sure what the rationale is for selling it as a single strain, except perhaps to extend the product line. GLP-1 probiotic includes 3 of the 5 strains in that original combo formula and supposedly supports appetite control and weight management by enhancing natural GLP-1 levels. So I think the name makes it clear that this one is riding on the wave of excitement about the new anti-obesity medications. Even if it does boost GLP-1 production in the gut, it seems increasingly clear that the success of the anti-obesity medications has less to do with increasing GLP-1 in the gut and more to do with enhancing GLP-1 activity in the brain. But you know what? These days, just putting the words GLP-1 on a product, it's just shrewd marketing. And finally, there is a polyphenol booster, which doesn't contain any probiotics. It's simply an antioxidant supplement which supposedly supports gut health. So unlike their flagship product, as far as I can tell, these new products do not have the same level of scientific evidence to support their effectiveness. And while they originally seemed to be positioning themselves as more of a medical-grade therapeutic formulation, with the initial outreach focused very much on healthcare professionals, they seem to have made a pretty stark pivot towards marketing directly to consumers. So instead of focusing on management of type 2 diabetes, the focus now is on weight management, appetite control, and metabolic health. These are categories that are always popular with consumers, but especially so now due to that surge of interest around the GLP-1 medications like Ozempic and Wegovy. All of this raises some red flags in terms of credibility, but there may be other consequences to this strategy as well. Product line extension is a classic marketing strategy, especially when a company finds itself with a breakout success. If the market is excited about your original product, then offering a whole bunch of slightly tweaked versions can allow you to leverage your brand strength and increase your sales and maybe capture some new niche markets. Dove soap is a good example of this strategy. For 100 years, it was simply a basic moisturizing soap bar, but then they expanded into body washes, deodorants, shampoos, conditioners, skincare products. And each new product allowed Dove to attract different types of customers, and ultimately, it seems to have strengthened the overall brand. But sometimes this strategy can backfire. Diet Coke, for example, is an iconic brand, but Coca-Cola felt that it might be able to attract some new customers, namely young men, with a new sugar-free product that didn't include the word diet. The introduction of Coke Zero left a lot of people scratching their heads, wondering, Okay, why do we need two sugar-free Cokes? And what exactly is the difference between them? And my point here is just that product line extensions may help you capitalize on an initial success. But unless they're done thoughtfully, you do run the risk of frustrating or confusing your customers, diluting your brand, and undermining brand loyalty. And I do have to wonder whether Pendulum's strategy will ultimately harm their credibility, especially with healthcare professionals who may have originally been impressed by the very research-driven clinical focus, but now might just see another supplement company making a lot of poorly substantiated claims. So my original enthusiasm for Pendulum's flagship glucose control probiotics still stands. The initial research published in 2020 remains solid, although I am still eager to see some longer-term data. That product may offer real benefits for people with type 2 diabetes. The newer products Pendulum has introduced don't seem to have the same level of scientific rigor behind their claims. You might well perceive some positive results from them, but given the lack of supporting research, I would approach the claims for these products with some healthy skepticism and let the evidence, and not the marketing, guide your choices. Thanks again to Emily for suggesting today's topic. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer, you can email it to me at nutrition@quickanddirtytips.com. If you'd like to find out about having me speak at your next live or virtual event, you can learn more at wellnessworkshere.com. Nutrition Diva is a Quick and Dirty Tips podcast. Steve Riekeberg is our audio engineer. Brian Getchus provides script editing. Holly Hutchings is our digital operations specialist. And Morgan Christensen heads up podcast operations and advertising. Davina Tomlin is in charge of marketing and publicity, and we also get indispensable support from Nat Hoops. Thanks to all of them, and thanks to you for listening. I'll see you next week.